Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Tom Slivick with Brian Oneto here on News in Depth at TSPN. And Brian, this is going to be discussed, gun control. It's being discussed
Sure.
right now at the state level. And the letter is to try to influence our legislators there on what to do with the proposed gun control stuff. What do you find offensive, or however you'd say it?
You know,
And I'll let you use those words.
what I find offensive, Tom, is they're using emotional arguments. You're not using logic, and the problem is there's an issue out there, and I think they should be looking at the criminal and the mentally insane people, and they should be addressing that. As far as people that are law-abiding citizens, they should not be infringing on our rights. And it's almost like when you see some of these areas go in there and they have a problem with people going out and doing graffiti and tagging. Well, they make it illegal to sell more than so many cans of spray paint. They put it behind lock deals. You can't get into it. You know, they still got graffiti out there. They're still going to. If they wanted to get rid of the graffiti, get the people that are doing it and have them go out there and spend a year or 2 years, and we'll feed them, and they can go and spend a couple of years with a hand brush, with a wire brush, taking off graffiti. If you go in there and make it to where that's what you should be doing. Don't say you can't have any spray paint because you might go do graffiti. Well, then that's calling you a crook or a criminal, and that's not right. What they should do when they catch the criminals, make them pay.
Okay, well, we're here in a rural county, and it seems the rural counties are probably more for kind of gun ownership that we're used to or that we have now, and probably don't want it infringed upon any more than it is. And there's a difference between rural counties and the more populated, heavily populated counties. You know, up here, we're talking about you, Brian. You're quite a few generations. I believe your family's here, been in Amador County. You probably grew up with firearms and
sure.
And shooting, and feel comfortable with them, and are responsible.
When I grew up, Tom, actually there was, I wouldn't say behind every door coming in and out of the house, but there was loaded weapons in the house. And they weren't in the chamber, but there would be rounds in the magazine or rounds in the tube or wherever. And we were kids. We understood, hey, that's how it was, and that was there. If you had a rattlesnake or you had a coyote or whatever it may be, you don't want to be going saying, okay, let's see, I'll unlock this. I'll go in there and I'll put this weapon together, and I'll find the ammo in a different spot, and I'll load it. And 5 minutes later, I'll go out and get the rattlesnake or the coyote or whatever might be the problem. And sometimes, you don't always know what's coming at you. And if you want to access that weapon, you want it fairly soon.
Okay, I guess if I was trying to get to a point or anything, it seems like country folk are more used to firearms, having them around and using them. I believe the sheriff kind of weighed in as well with a letter, and we had a program in here, and he seemed to feel, I believe, I don't want to put words in the sheriff's mouth, but law-abiding citizens have the right to have weapons, and of course there's different ways you can have weapons. You can have them, at home, long guns and things, and then there's also concealed carry weapons, which you need special permits for. And we don't want to get into the weeds. It's so easy to get into all of this that I don't think we want to take it there.
I'd like to say that our sheriff did weigh in, as did numerous sheriffs across the state, even the nation, that have said, hey, you know what, we're not going to infringe on the people's constitutional rights. Numerous ones have. And what seems to be a common thread is they're saying, address the mentally ill, address the problem, don't go in and treat everybody else as lawbreakers and take away their constitutional right, basically, to defend themselves.
Right.
A couple excerpts from the letter. Also, our sheriff's letter is on Amador County Sheriff's website. You can go on there and click on it, it'll come up. An excerpt from it is, rather than addressing the criminals and dangerously mentally ill who use these weapons and others to commit their heinous acts, critically needed funding and effort was instead spent on defining which weapons were evil based on their physical characteristics. Certain weapons were banned simply because of how they looked rather than any real nexus to violent criminal activity or functionality. So, he's saying money was spent doing that rather than addressing, the criminals and mentally ill.
Right.
He had some real good statistics in his letter that he wrote, and he sent it to Feinstein and Boxer and McClintock. In 2010, California Department of Justice report entitled Homicide in California, 1,809 homicides were reported in the state. Of these, all types of rifles combined accounted for 58 or 3.3% of the total. In contrast, homicide by knives accounted for 14.2%. Personal weapons, hands, feet, etc. accounted for 5.8%, and blunt objects 4.7%. So I guess, are we going to outlaw hands and feet and get rid of them?
Well, it doesn't seem that there's focus there. That seems to the focus seems to just be on firearms, as if.
Well, it's an emotionally based argument. It's not factual. I mean, what some of the legislators are trying to put forth, and I like how our sheriff closed. What he said, Tom, is, "I respectfully request your support in ensuring the protection of our citizens and their constitutional rights through a reasonable, thoughtful, proven, and fact-based approach to reduce gun violence." I mean, he's got it right there in a nutshell.
Right. So if we look at this factually, it seems that people that want to maintain rights to keep and bear weapons and use them for self-defense, other things as well, facts fall on our side. There's a chart that we have that I believe Alan can probably put up that kind of shows crime rates go up when weapons are taken away from the citizenry. And if that chart's up there, I'd just like to point out, it's hard to probably read everything, but that blue line that just is going up like we wish that was the stock market.
The one that spikes at the end?
Yeah, is Australia's that just recently had their weapons taken away. And one of the predicates for that was to register all weapons.
So you're saying it's going along a pretty flat line, and where it spikes up is right about where they took away the weapons?
It seems that, the argument, is that, good citizens should probably be able to have weapons. They don't commit many crimes with them. Probably once you fall over, and by definition is something else. But criminals, use weapons, and they're not going to obey the law anyway. By definition, they don't don't.
And that's what criminals
do. The law.
do.
So when you disarm people, the criminal, has knowledge. He's saying, there's nobody here can stop me.
There's no threat in that residence.
I don't see any sheriff's by. I don't see any law enforcement.
Well, when they go into a house, they know that you're unarmed.
Right.
And now, if you go into a house, there may be some little old man in there, a little old lady that may not be very big, but if they've got a firearm, you're in trouble, and crooks know that.
Right. And of course, we all know it wouldn't be common sense. I can't think of anybody that would put a sticker on their door that would say, "No firearms here. Come on in."
No, right? I wouldn't.
Okay. So it seems to be, a battle of facts, to where facts don't seem to matter too much to.
Perfect point on that.
One side.
There's a deal down there where I received. Somebody sent me an email. There's a sign down in Arizona. We're talking about facts don't matter. They're talking about they want to keep the public safe, and I believe maybe Alan might have that. Okay, he's got the sign up. Somebody sent me that, and I read the sign. I thought, it talks about there's active drug and human smuggling area, on all this in this sign, and there's a phone number. I called the phone number and said, "Hey, is this sign for At first I said, "Who am I speaking with?" And the lady identified herself. She's with Public Lands, Department of the Bureau of Interior, BLM, and she says they have a huge problem down there. They're getting no help. It's really bad. And that particular sign you were seeing in TV, it was went up about in 2010. It's on the south side of Interstate 8 between Casa Grande and Gila Bend. This is 80 miles north of the Mexican border. That's in the United States. And basically, the drug cartels and bad people are controlling that area down there. And you see people hollering and screaming, saying we must help out those American citizens that are basically under state of siege. You don't hear a word. But yet they want to take away our weapons, and they can't even keep us safe within our borders. That's where I think the legislators are, I don't know if I'd call it criminal activity, but close to. They are really wrong. They should be making sure America's secure. You go through an airport, and they're going to strip search ladies and men, and yet our borders aren't secure. Who are we fooling? So yet they want to take away our firearms because they're going to keep us safe. I have issues. Also, there is a lot of legislation being put forth right now by our federal government, by our state legislators. There's one of them by Senator Steinberg, requires ownership record on all firearms. One reason why I don't like that is once they get records of what firearms you have, the next step is they decide to confiscate them all. We've got a record of every firearm you have, and you better turn it in. So that's just a precursor to what they want to do down the road. Senate Bill 53 by Senator Kevin D. Leon, if passed, would require ammunition purchasers in California to obtain an ammunition purchase permit, first by passing a full and complete background investigation, registration, and thumbprinting for all ammunition sales, and bans the internet mail order purchase of all ammunition. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Let's take a look at a little bit of a myth on ammunition, too. A lot of people, eyes roll or whatever, and eyebrows go up or whatever when they would hear someone buying boxes and boxes of ammunition. And yet, if you're trying to stay proficient in the use of your weapon and safety and being able to make sure you shoot what you're aiming at, you're going to go through quite a few boxes of ammunition that day at the range.
You can shoot 50, 100 rounds like nothing. It's pretty easy. When I was a little kid, my mom went to town. All I really wanted was if she could bring back a jug of root beer or some ice cream and a box of 22 shells, like 50. And if I was really, and high cotton life was good, maybe she'd bring my brothers and I back a brick, which was like 500. And it probably could have or should have lasted longer than it did, but we'd go through them really pretty quick. And we had a lot of fun, never hurt nobody.
Okay. Now, interesting thing with guns and...
Hey, Tom,
the sales
can I interrupt
have...
for a second?
Go ahead.
Also on the legislation, there's one being put forth by Senate Pro Temp Darrell Steinberg, which prohibits the sale, purchase, manufacture, importation, or transfer of all semi-automatic rifles that can accept detachable magazines. And I mean, you look at it, and I remember 20 years ago, they were demonizing the Saturday night specials being the one the criminals like. Now they want the assault weapons. Basically, these people, some of these people are lying because what they really want is all of our guns, and any excuse they can find to do that is what they'll use.
Right. Now, of course, we're running out of time, Brian.
Okay.
But when we, a lot of times when politics or anything's going on, you put a lot of stuff in thinking, well, okay, we'll give up on this, we'll give up on that, we'll take this, we'll take that. Do you think there's much give and take in here, or do you think this is all they really want?
Oh, I think they want this plus a whole lot more.
Okay.
This is just the start.
All right. So we're running out of time, and we're going to say...
But I'll say this.
Go ahead.
If you talk to the American people, they're not going to give up their firearms. You may get some of them, but I see people pouring oil in their flower gardens to make sure their guns don't rust. That's what I see coming if they pass it.
Okay. All right. And so thanks for watching us today on News in Depth here on TSPN. And we'll catch you again next time. Stay tuned. There's more TSPN coming up.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
American Legion Ambulance Service has served Amador County since 1929.